When it comes to compact luxury sports sedans, the Lexus IS has always been Lexus's answer to the famed BMW 3 Series. When the company first introduced this nameplate nearly 25 years ago, it quickly gathered a reputation for being an extremely fun to drive, attractive looking, and extremely reliable compact luxury sports sedan. Now, back in 2021, Lexus introduced a new version of the IS, which was criticized heavily for being just a heavy refresh for a model that came out back in 2013. But as you can see, this week we are testing out the pinnacle of the IS family, known as the IS 500 F Sport Performance. It basically makes itself unique in the segment by offering the only naturally aspirated V8 under the hood, making 472 horsepower. And while there are rumors of a new IS showing up for 2025, which will be going all electric, for those of you who don't want anything like that and you want something a little bit more old school, this week we are testing out this beautiful ultrasonic blue IS 500 F Sport Performance. And the big question I want answered, for those of you who want something that's purely unique in the segment, especially for having a unique engine, how does the 2023 IS 500 continue to stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, the big story when you guys choose an IS 500 is centered, of course, around what's going on underneath the hood, because this hood has about a 2-inch bulge compared to the IS 350, and that's all to make room for this naturally aspirated 5-liter V8, the last of its kind in this segment. Now, as you can see underneath this engine cover, you're going to find a magnificent engine. This is known as the 2UR FSE 5-liter naturally aspirated direct injection V8. It actually has direct and port injection. This engine has been around for quite some time. Of course, it has some lineage back to the original ISF back in 2008. Back then, it made 416 horsepower. Now it makes 472 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you guys are keeping score, this actually is a lot more power versus what you get in like a BMW M340i, a Mercedes AMG C43, and an Audi S4. That's what the IS 500 competes with. Don't think of this car as a BMW M3 competitor. Think of it as an M340i competitor. Now, it only goes out through one transmission, an 8-speed direct shift automatic transmission, and rear-wheel drive with a limited slip differential is your only drivetrain choice. There is no all-wheel drive available. If you want all-wheel drive, Lexus will happily sell you an IS 300 or an IS 350. In terms of fuel economy, it's rated at 17 in the city, 25 on the highway. That's about a 3 mpg reduction versus the V6. It has around a 17.5 gallon fuel tank. Expect around 300-ish miles of range on a full tank using premium gas. Now, Lexus claims 0 to 60 is 4.4 seconds, which is about a second faster than the V6. It has a top speed of just shy of 150 miles an hour. And as this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just under 3,900 pounds. It sounds heavy. However, if you look at the hybrid turbocharged 4-cylinder AMG Mercedes, the C43, that's actually around 200 pounds heavier thanks to its battery pack. So this is still technically light-ish by modern car standards. But let's go ahead and close up this hood, which, by the way, I mentioned earlier, the 500, you'll be able to tell it's this model from the hood bulge. It's about 2 inches higher in the center versus the V6, and that's all to make clearance for that 5-liter V8. My particular tester is painted in this gorgeous shade of ultrasonic blue mica. It's unique, of course, to F Sport models, and it's probably one of my favorite blues. Acura also does a wonderful blue called Apex Blue, but it looks amazing on this car. In fact, even though this car, the platform dates back to 2013, it looks modern, it looks really sophisticated, it looks really sexy and sleek. It still turns a lot of heads out on the road. Now, going for the IS 500 Premium that I'm showing you here, you get standard triple beam full LED headlights with the LED daytime running lights and turn signals. No fog lights down here, but you do have a unique front bumper with the F Sport grille, of course, with the intake plenum. It has some functional cooling there, some functional openings here, of course, to allow air to go through for the cooling of that engine. You can see the F Sport grille forms this kind of mesh design with the intricate L's. Ignore the bug splatter there. This car was spotless when I first pulled in until I started driving it and a bug decided to explode on the front. But overall, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the design. I think this is still one of the best looking sedans out there. Lexus really nailed the exterior design when they refreshed this car. Now, moving around the side profile, this is a compact sports sedan. It's technically the smallest sedan that Lexus makes. And at 187.5 inches long, this is actually pretty long by compact sedan standards. This vehicle is actually around 2 inches longer than the V6 powered car. I suspect it's all about the front and rear bumpers on the V8 model. It has a 110-inch long wheelbase. And again, this is a rear drive platform, so it doesn't share anything with a Toyota Camry, for example. Looking at the wheels, you can see these are the matte finished 19-inch BBS finished wheels that you get as an option for $2,500. They're riding on a Bridgestone Potenza S001L summer performance tires. It's a 235 in the front. There's a 265 in the rear. These are surprisingly the same size tires and wheels that you can get on the V6. You also get upgraded brakes. The V8 upgrades the brakes by about an inch. You have a 14-inch vented rotor at the front with a 4-piston black painted Lexus caliper. There's also a 12.8-inch rotor at the rear. Again, I kind of wish Lexus would offer a red painted caliper or a blue painted caliper. The black is nice, but I like the brake calipers to typically pop out and stand out a little bit more. You can see the front suspension. It's got standard, the adaptive variable suspension with adaptive dampers. The rear suspension has a unique Yamaha designed performance damper. So again, unique suspension tuning for the V8. You have power folding mirrors with this black accent. You have integrated turn signal mirrors. I like the chrome as well. It's a nice design. All IS 500s come standard with a standard size sunroof. No pano roof is available or a black roof. I also like how the chrome trim along the window trim is also blacked out, traditional looking door handles. And overall from this angle, there's not really an ugly angle of this car. It really still has a wonderful look to it. So I'll be curious to see what Lexus does for the next generation. Now looking around the rear, this is where you're going to get more clues that this is a V8 powered IS. You can see there's a badge here that shows IS 500. There's no, again, this is not an ISF. This is an F Sport Performance, which is technically one notch below that. You have this kind of interesting design for the full LED taillight design. Lexus has been going to that. It still has the older Lexus logo as opposed to spelling out Lexus in the back. The turn signal, as you can see, however, is incandescent. You've got LED taillights, brake lights, and LED reverse lights. And then down here, you can see the rear diffuser is practically the same, but you have the signature stacked quad exhaust tips. Those are actually real pipes. And this vehicle here, while it doesn't sound quite as nasty and mean as the LC 500, it still has a pretty good noise. So let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. And even though this isn't quite as loud as the LC, I still love that glorious, naturally aspirated V8. It just makes this car sound super unique. Now, looking at the trunk capacity, well, first of all, you can see it comes with this rear deck lid spoiler. Opening up the trunk, the IS does have a slightly smaller trunk compared to rivals at just over 10 cubic feet. You can see it has hinges that'll crush your cargo. The seats do fold in a 60-40 manner. I remember when luxury cars used to not give you that touch. And then underneath here, you can see there is actually a temporary spare. How very Japanese of them to have it look like that. The donut has like a yellow painted actual alloy wheel and all your usual tools to change the spare. So instead of dealing with a fix-a-flat kit, I like how Lexus at least gives you a temporary spare, which is nice. So overall, the cargo area is a little bit smaller than rivals, but it's still very usable. So now that we've talked about the beautiful exterior styling of this Lexus IS 500, let's go ahead and talk about the interior. Before I do that, let me go ahead and show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the older Lexus key fob. It has their intelligent access key with push button start as standard. You have your usual lock, unlock, pop open the trunk, but it's not electrically power opening, and then a panic feature. Some of these other newer Lexus models and Toyota models, if you push the lock button 3 times in sequence and then hold it on the lock the 3rd time, it'll remote start the vehicle. This model here does not have that, again, because of the age of the IS. Now you can see traditional door handle. It has a little ridge area here where if you touch that, that'll lock the door for you. I said earlier the mirrors power fold, but I was wrong. They actually don't power fold. For some reason I thought it did. It doesn't have that digital latch system that you find in like the NX or the RX. So touch the back of the door handle here. This pops out traditionally. This vehicle does not offer an auto walkaway lock or unlock feature like some competitors. Now, my particular tester has a very, very polarizing color combination with the ultrasonic blue mica and the circuit red Nulux leather. This is, of course, exclusive to the S Sport trims. I have a love-hate relationship with these because I like how it's different, but I also think it's a little too different. There's too much contrast. It reminds me of like Superman, for example. I would personally go with the white Nulux as opposed to the circuit red. This would look fantastic if this car had the ultra white exterior or perhaps like a gray exterior as opposed to the blue and the red. It's just too much contrast for me, but let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. The seats themselves, this is the Nulux, so it's a faux leather material. They're heated and ventilated. The seats adjust in 12 different ways. You also get a 3-person memory. On the driver's side, which is nice, the door panel you can see has a soft touch material, although it could be nicer. It could be stitched in leather like some competitors. You have leather Nulux here on this portion. I like this aluminum trim here. Window controls are one touch for all four. They have a high quality feel to them. They're also illuminated. You have a plastic accented, silver painted plastic accented door handle here. It's hard touch plastic here. I like how the red continues onto this portion of the door panel. You have some storage here, F-Sport side sill, of course, and then you have a 17 speaker Mark Levinson stereo that's included with the premium package that my tester has for an additional $3,500. Now, getting inside the IS, you can see it has that low step-in height as a sports sedan. You kind of expect that. As I get in and shut the door still has a solid sounding thunk. Even though this car is old, it still gives you a nice impression of quality. Now, I also like how the start stop button is mounted up high so you don't lose sight of it. And then when you start the vehicle up, you're constantly reminded how beautiful that engine is. I mean, I just love the sound of the engine. I love the graphics. I mean, this is an old LFA style display. You have that 10.2-inch monitor, which is included when you guys go for the premium package. And as you can see here, it has the older Lexus interface system here with wired connection, Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto. This tachometer also slides. If I push this little button here, you can see it actually moves to the center or moves to the right. If I switch the drive mode here into sport, it actually changes to a full white in a Sport Plus setting. And then the engine, it just revs beautifully, and it's so free revving. I mean, that's the reason why you'd want to go with this particular model. Now, no heads-up display. The IS doesn't offer that, but you do have a nice little leather cover portion here where it's covered in the soft text with the red contrasting stitching. This right here is padded, but it's got a faux stitching material. You have a traditional analog clock. This is actually a touchscreen, which again, this was updated in 2021. This is definitely still looks nice, although the black border around it is a little bit large. I mean, Lexus could easily go to a 12.3-inch display like they have in like the Lexus ES, but at least it has CarPlay and Android Auto. But again, when you go back to here, you can see there's the awful trackpad, which nobody really liked or missed. And you can see here, going back to the Lexus system here, it's just kind of a pain in the butt to use. There's the GPS. It's also very old. And you can also do a split screen if you like, but this is just a letdown. We hear rumors again of Lexus putting the new interface in this car for 2024, but for 2023, as you can see, it still has the older system. Put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with trajectory, with a full 360 camera that's included with this premium package. It has front and rear parking sensors, rear cross traffic alert. The graphics aren't actually too bad, but again, you see some better screens in a lot of its competitors. You can see this center stack here is very old. You have these touch sensitive sliders for the dual zone climate control, actual hard buttons. You have a volume knob and a tuning knob. This vehicle is one of the few vehicles out there that still has a cassette player, which again shows how old it is. And then you can see here, you actually have physical controls, buttons for your heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, which is nice. Your drive mode selector is here. This controls the 8-speed auto. It has a manual mode, and you also have paddles on the wheel, which is nice. The steering wheel itself, as you can see, it's unique to the F-Sport models with the F-Sport badging here. It's got a power tilt telescoping design, which is nice. It has buttons here to control that. For your cruise control, this vehicle has Lexus Safety System 2.5. And then you can see here, it's one of the last few Lexus and Toyota vehicles left to still use this old cruise control stock, which is definitely surprising to see. The window controls, or the turn signal stocks and the wiper stocks, also are a little bit old. I also don't like how when you signal right or left, they actually return to center. This is the only Lexus vehicle, I believe, that does that. Toyota and Lexus have gone away from this design. This is, again, showing the age of the vehicle. The trackpad here looks, again, I don't miss this trackpad, so I'm looking forward to Lexus getting rid of this if they do for 2024. You have cup holders here, padded center console. Again, open this up, you have your two USB-A storage or connectors there to connect your phone. It's a nice, relatively usable storage area. The seats themselves are comfortable, supportive. The cooled function works really well. I love how these seats hug you, but they're also really soft and plush. Lexus does a really great job with seats. These are one of the most comfortable seats that you'll find in the segment. Open up the glove compartment, you can see it's damped but not lined with felt. It's not fairly large. You can see there's an auto-dimming rearview mirror, although they don't offer the digital camera rearview mirror. And then you have LED lighting here for the map lighting. No ambient LED lighting at night, however, again, showing the age of the car. You have a standard size sunroof, which you can tilt open. You can slide it open as well, but don't expect to find a pano roof. There's kind of like a woven material here on the headliner. But overall, you can see, aside from the dated tech interface, it's still a comfortable interior. You can see out of it pretty well. You can actually see the hood bulge that you get with the V8. And overall, you just get a sense of quality because the build quality in this car feels impeccable. It feels like it's going to last for a very long time. Let's go ahead and hop into the back seat of the IS 500. This is where you're going to find some weaknesses again because this car is on the smaller end in terms of the space. Now, Typically in this class, you don't have a really big back seat either, but the IS is one of the smallest. This offers like a little over 33 inches of legroom, which is pretty small. It's like a couple inches smaller than most of its competitors. You can see the door panel material is soft touch, injection molded plastic, padded here, more of that aluminum trim. Window controls still feel pretty high quality, so that's all very nice. Silver painted plastic door handle. But once you get back here, you can see I have to literally duck my head super annoyingly to get back here. Otherwise, you're gonna smack your head against that roof line. But once you're back here, I'm 5'7". It is comfortable for somebody like me, although not for super long trips. So you can see there's good foot space. There's a big, massive hump here, because remember, this is a rear drive vehicle. You have rear seat air vents, which is nice. You have two map pockets over here. No USB ports or heated rear seats. You'll find that in a lot of the competitors. The seats, they do fold down, obviously, but they also have a little armrest here that folds down and gives you two cup holders as well, which they pop out like that. So again, this is all reminds me of early 2000s stuff. But overall, if you plan to use this as a family vehicle, this is where the IS is going to show its weaknesses. You may want to consider a Lexus ES, for example, if you must have a sedan, but it is usable for average size adults or in a pinch. So I must admit, even though I was pretty harsh on this car when it first came out back in 2021 for it being super old, I have to say, when I spent a week with the IS 350 earlier this year, I fell in love with the car again, even though it is very, very old. So now that we're in the 500, which is the pinnacle of the IS family, not necessarily an ISF, but I have to say everything that you love about the IS 350, but with that screaming 5-liter V8, and it's been almost 2 years. Actually, it's been about 2 years since I drove this car. And while we are expecting Lexus to give this car some updates for 2024, a next generation version supposedly is going to go all electric. So pick up one of these V8 powered screaming sports sedans while you can. It's certainly going to become a collector's item at some point. So the last time I drove this car, I did a 0 to 60 test on it, but let's go ahead and see what we can get on it again now that we're in perfect weather conditions on our usual stretch of road. Lexus claims 4.4 seconds, but let's see what we can go ahead and get. I have the car in Sport Plus mode. There is no launch control, so instead you just want to brake torque it, but not too much, otherwise it'll spin the tires. Oh, screaming! 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. Now on that same stretch, in the IS 350 all-wheel drive with its 6-speed auto, I got 5.5 seconds. Remember, that car will allow you to do more of an aggressive brake torque. If I do too much in this car, it'll start burning out the rear tires because the computer will sense anytime the power goes or the RPM goes above 2000 RPM, and it will again start to cut power, and it won't let you actually do a really aggressive clutch dump. But again, 0 to 60 times aren't necessarily the point of a vehicle like this. Remember, it's rear wheel drive. There's only so much that you can do when you are dealing with a rear wheel drive powered vehicle. It only has so much power that allows you to basically put it to the ground. Otherwise, you're going to be just roasting the tires. But let's see what we can get here on this little stretch real quick. Oh, God, I never get tired of that sound. 4.7 there, so that's actually a little bit better, and considering this is like a flat road. So I'll see if I can do it one more time somewhere down the road and see if we can get closer to the 4.4 second mark. But I will say that compared to this engine in an actual like F product, like the GSF or even the LC500, Lexus has definitely like neutered the sound a little bit. It's not quite as loud in this car as it is in the LC500, which is a shame. The LC500 also has that lovely direct shift 10-speed. This 8-speed in this car, I will say, has its moments where it is quick to shift, but then there are other times where I find it sleeping a little bit, trying to go into its top gear. This is essentially the same 8-speed in the IS 350, but it has been tuned a little bit differently to handle the extra power, but it's still not quite up to the same snuff as the 10-speed in the IS and the LC500. But what I will say is surprisingly excellent is the ride quality. This car has the adaptive variable suspension from the IS 350 F Sport, and it also has a Yamaha tuned damper in the rear suspension. It is, of course, its own specific tuning, and it has a really good ride. Even in its Sport Plus setting right now, the stiffest setting, I can daily drive this vehicle easily, and that's the beauty about this chassis. It's an old chassis, but it still feels good. It still handles corners really well. The steering is sharp, quick, and direct. It doesn't offer much in terms of feel. It's an electric power steering assist, but it's surprising to me just how good this old girl can still kind of hustle around the corners. Oh. Oh my God, that's really nice. That's really nice. Now this car does have an active sound control system where I've had it on the whole time. If I turn it off completely, it's not, you know, creating that fake sound through the speakers. And I do notice that it's not quite as fake sounding. It actually sounds a little bit more authentic. I prefer it with it off, surprisingly, but let's see what we can get here real quick. 0 to 60 wise, we'll just do a quick brake torque. And it's spinning the tires, so let's just try not brake torquing it this time. Now, I wasn't able to actually get to 60 here because this road, as you can see, they're doing a little bit of work to it. So it's a rear drive car. We'll see if we can do one more quick one down the road where the pavement actually has been repaved. This is kind of more of a gravelly road. That's the problem with rear wheel drive. If Lexus had put all wheel drive on this vehicle, my God, it would be so much faster. It would be interesting to see this vehicle with all wheel drive. But remember, it's still a naturally aspirated engine, so there's only so much power this vehicle can put down. You kind of have to keep that mindful of that. I mean, a lot of the competitors with this car, if you look at the Audi, the Mercedes, they only come with all-wheel drive. Oh my God, I never get tired of that. I love that. As soon as you cross like 4,000, 5,000 RPM, there's an intake plenum that opens up completely and you just hear it screaming. That the sound is purely Japanese. It's not quite American muscle, but it's not quite the same as like European V8 as well. It's just uniquely Japanese. I just wish it was a little bit louder. The LC has the sound that I'm looking for from this engine. This car, it's a little bit muffled and I don't love that. I wish Lexus would just let it breathe completely. But again, this is not technically a full fat F. It's an IS 500 F Sport Performance, which is a mouthful, but I'm still happy that it exists. I mean, something with a quick exhaust change will clearly give you the sound that you're looking for, so you can easily go to the aftermarket to give you even more of that V8 bellow that I love so much. Now, in terms of the seats, I also love these F Sport specific seats. They hold you in place very comfortably. They hug you, but they're not too constricting on my body. They feel perfect, but the cushioning also feels really soft. I could feel like I could sit in these seats for hours and not get sore. That's the beauty about Lexus. They do excellent seats. I think they do one of the best seats in the industry. Visibility is also good. I can see out of the front, the sides really well. The back also is really easy to see out of. This car has the Lexus Safety System 2.5 as standard, so it's not quite the newest system, which doesn't surprise me. It's the older Lexus. You can hear, or you can feel the transmission downshifted there in sport mode. But again, I forget that this car is in sport mode. I can obviously go to its normal mode and it'll obviously shift a little bit or get into its top gear a little bit faster, but in this vehicle, I find myself just leaving it in Sport Plus all the time. It does a really excellent job of just driving this vehicle in terms of a daily driver and just being super comfortable and super relaxed. Now, in terms of fuel economy, let's go ahead and quickly talk about that. Lexus rates this car at 1725 on premium gas. It has a 17.5 gallon fuel tank. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 19 mpg. That's in mixed driving. On the highway, it is able to do around 24 to 26 mpg. 26 was the highest that I saw. It's actually really good because of the fact that this is a naturally aspirated V8 with direct import injection. It actually can be efficient if you are disciplined with your right foot, which is a little bit difficult to do, but you put this vehicle into its normal setting and it just behaves like a proper luxury car. It has that dual personality that you're looking for. Obviously, it doesn't quite have the torque that you want from a boosted engine, but at the same time, I'm applauding the fact that it is not a boosted engine. I just love the fact that it's just a naturally aspirated engine that requires you to rev it out to get the most power. That's the beauty about this car, is it just feels really, really good. But let's go ahead and try it again here really quick and see if we can actually get a slightly faster time. Brake torque it. Again, too much power and it's like, the back end is squirming. 4.8 there, so sadly I don't think I can get a slightly faster time. The problem is this car just doesn't have launch control. It'll start to spin out its rear tires, which is fun, but 4.7 is certainly respectable. Obviously you're going to get smoked by the M340i or an Audi S4. Those can do it in the low to mid 4-second range, but none of them sound as good as this, and that's the whole point of the IS 500. So if you guys are looking for something that's extremely well made, it's going to be reliable, it has that signature like bellow from a V8, I definitely recommend putting this at the top of your list. Although I will say that There is rumors that Lexus will replace this ancient infotainment system and slightly change this for 2024. I don't know if that's true. It hasn't been confirmed as of this filming. And if Lexus does do that, I would happily say wait for the 2024 model. But if they don't, we are expecting a fully redesigned IS for 2025. And that's, again, a reason to pick up one of these vehicles while it's still out there. So despite the age of the current generation Lexus IS, I have to say this vehicle continues to hold a special place in my heart because it is a car that you can probably buy and plan to keep for at least a decade and expect very little to no problems, along with maintenance that'll be included as part of the Lexus service plan, and the fact that you get the only naturally aspirated V8. Even though the performance of this engine, while it isn't great in terms of numbers, 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, is a little bit disappointing. It still, again, has that glorious sound that's going to really wake up if you put an aftermarket exhaust on it, and it is a very unique engine because everything else is using a boosted 6-cylinder, and then Mercedes even went to a boosted 4-cylinder. So something about having a naturally aspirated V8 is just very charismatic, and it's a reason to choose this vehicle alone. In terms of the tech, this car's tech interface obviously is still using the older Lexus system. It doesn't even have wireless CarPlay or Android Auto. It doesn't have the new Lexus interface system. I hope that Lexus shows up for 2024 by putting the new infotainment system in this car. I think that's going to be probably the perfect change before they go to the next generation model, which is rumored to be going all electric. So as of this filming, we don't know right now. However, hopefully in the next month or so, Lexus will be announcing the changes for 2024, but right now we still don't know. In terms of the handling dynamics, this is still one of the sportier driving sports sedans out there. In terms of the interior space, the backseat is pretty tight, the trunk is small, but it is still relatively usable. Obviously, for those of you who need to carry more things, you're gonna wanna go buy like a Lexus NX, but for those of you who actually want a sports sedan, this is very much still one of the better ones out there, despite the fact that it has some pretty old tech. And surprisingly, even though this car is getting old, it has been doing pretty well for Lexus in terms of sales. The company does around 22,000 sales every year. Last year, they did around 22,000 units. This is actually the 4th best-selling compact luxury sports sedan in the US. The BMW 3 Series is first with 30,000 units. Then you have the Genesis G70 with around 28,000 units. Mercedes is next with around 26,000 units, and then Lexus with 22,000 units. So for a car that's old as dirt, it's actually doing really well. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that this car is more affordable than its rivals. Base pricing for a Lexus IS starts at around $41,000. If you guys want the V8 is going to cost you about $14,000 more versus an IS 350 F Sport. So I think that's a reasonable charge. My tester here is the IS 500 Premium, which includes the Mark Levinson stereo, the navigation system, the premium triple beam LED headlights. With the BBS wheels and destination and the extra charge for this paint, you're looking at just under $67,000, which is technically the most expensive IS that you can buy. 67 grand may sound like a lot of money, but keep in mind, if you want a German rival that's comparably equipped, that's fully loaded, like an M340i or an S4 or a C43, those models will easily be in the $70,000 range. So the Lexus is a little bit less expensive, and it also has that charismatic, unique engine that may not be quite as quick or as efficient, but it just has a lot more character, and it's going to appeal to those of you old school enthusiasts out there. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Lexus IS 500 F Sport Performance. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.